Okay, good morning, everyone. We are gathered here for our first accessed student-led seminar of Learning Set B. We will be discussing on exploring winning strategies in a digitally disrupted VUCA world by digital-oriented strategies and driving digital transformation. This is a student-led seminar. We will have discussion. Please use some sources to make your comments or justification more stronger. So over to first start with the introduction of every group member. Then a leader can start the discussion. We will start first with the introduction of the participant. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Sudiksha Tuladar, and my UNID is 19436736.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sunshine Rai. My UNID is 9436738.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Isha Pokhrel, and my UNID is 19436734.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ganesh Dangal, and my UN ID is 19436741.
Good morning, everyone, and my student ID is 19436745.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rishi Casey, and my student ID is 19436743.
The topic for the student-led seminar today is exploring winning strategies in a digitally disruptive VUCA world by digital-oriented strategies and driving digital transformation. Before talking about winning strategies for VUCA world, first let's talk briefly about VUCA. Jaron Kruisenbeck in Forbes stated that the concept of VUCA is gaining popularity as a term to cover various dimensions of this uncontrollable environment. We are in an age where disruptive technologies are the order of the day and business models are being redefined. So business needs to be ready for these kinds of environment as they are here not just to stay but to increase in intensity as well. No matter which area of business we are in, there is tremendous amount of change occurring. This state of affair can be best addressed as VUCA, an acronym for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Venkant Ramant, in his articles, said that the term VUCA was first used by the US military in 1990s to describe the increasingly complex geopolitical environment in which it was in operation. It was actually the response of US Army College to the collapse of the USSR. The V in VUCA stands for volatility. It implies the high speed of change in the industry, market, or the world. We live in a world that's constantly changing, becoming more unstable each day, where changes become more unprecedented and they're getting more and more dramatic and happening faster and faster. Nathan Bennett and James Lemon uh, in Harvard Business Review said that even the big companies like Unilever and P&G sometimes fail to see the change because it happens very abruptly. Similarly, uncertainty refers to the extent to which we can predict future. Part of uncertainty is that is perceived and associated with people's inability to understand what is going on. It's becoming nearly impossible to plan for investment, development, and growth as it becomes increasingly uncertain where the route is heading. Uncertain environments are those that don't allow any prediction even on a statistical basis. Our modern world is more complex than ever. In complexity, the key issue is that although we are aware of the outcomes of our actions, we are not able to arrive at a quick decision because of too many factors that we need to take into account while arriving at a decision. The more factors there are which affects the business, the greater their variety, and the more they are interconnected, the more complex an environment becomes. In today's world, it's rare for things to be completely clear or precisely determinable, so ambiguity refers to the lack of clarity about how to interpret things and vagueness in ideas.
To add up to what my friend just talked about VUCA, VUCA illustrates a business condition and that the strategy determination process are influenced by the rapid changes happening in the industry because of unpredictable challenges, which is volatility. Unpredictable issues, which is uncertainty, interconnected issues and chaos around the organization, which is known as complexity, and a condition where something clear and something that can be determined are so rare that courage, responsibility, and willingness in decision making is needed, which is ambiguity according to Potsdam Bank 2017. Jaron Kreisenbrink describes this condition related to each other by showing an example such as the more complex and volatile an industry is, the harder it is to predict, resulting in uncertain condition. Also, to further add up what scholars say about VUCA environment, the V in VUCA is described as how fast does an industry or market change, demand fluctuations or turbulences. According to Kreisenbrink 2014, also conveyed that the fast change in industry is one of the signs of volatility. And Bennett and Limoni 2014 stated that one of the signs of volatility is how unexpected and unstable a challenge is, but not necessarily hard to understand. Also, uncertainty is defined as the degree of how we can confidently predict the future, whether it's the demand of the market or technological innovation. Bennett and Limoni 2014 suggests to handle uncertainty by investing in information, which means that companies should start to collect, interpret, and share the information. Complexity is how much of things or factors that must be taken into account, their variety and relationships or correlation between them. Kreisenbrink defined that the more these things or factors are interconnected, the more complex an environment is. And as the environment or industry gets more complex, the harder it is to be analyzed. According to Bennett and Limoni 2014, this situation can be challenging and overwhelming to process, but solutions such as reconstructing the company and recruiting external specialists or developing internal ones can help solve this problem. Lastly, ambiguity refers to how hard it is to interpret a situation, and also the world gets more ambiguous the harder it is to be interpreted. This can be coped with creating hypotheses to understand why or how things happen and test them by doing experiments by trial and error method, then create a solution that can be practically executable.
As my friend mentioned previously, I would like to add to that digital transformation is making its way into most of the companies and industries, which in terms of VUCA is termed as VUCA world. In times of change, one frequently read about the so-called VUCA world. It is clearly understandable that every company is facing these challenges. Example, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. But in order to prepare for the world of tomorrow, it is necessary to reduce the fear of these words and recognize the opportunities behind the VUCA world through digitalization, big data, artificial intelligence, robotization, globalization, violence, financial crisis, climate change, and global shift in power. Every company and industry is facing the challenges of VUCA.
Adding to what my friend talked about digital transformation, the accelerated pace of technological change is posing significant challenges in the shape of digital transformation and digital disruption. Digital transformation has become a requirement for successful for getting success in the VUCA world. The concept of digital transformation is found by the merger of personal and corporate IT environment and capture the transformational effects of new digital technologies such as social social media, mobile, analytical, cloud technologies, and Internet of Things. This involves digital technologies, which gives companies an opportunity to radically change their business model as it touches the core of all business functions, especially the ways in which organizations are managed and mentored. Digital transformation is more mind-blowing kind of technology, which needs to be addressed the vital jobs of new digital advance and capacities for new effective digital development in the digital world. The increasing prevalence of digital technology is fundamentally transforming how business create value. According to these findings, however, it is not only technology but also strategy that drives proper digital transformation and ultimately provides competitive advantage. While choosing digitalization-based strategy, the management should focus on digital technology scope, digital capabilities, digital ecosystem coordination, digital architecture, configuration, and what changes organizations should be faced by the change in pace of technology in the coming future. Kinderman ETL 2020.
So, according to Scobb's 2016 journal, according to his perspective, digital transformation industry highlights how the disruptive nature of digital technologies has revolutionized the way that industries operate and how the traditional boundaries between them have dissolved in recent years. For example, in recent years, manufacturing has gained popularity with the introduced concepts of terms like Industry 4.0, smart factories, and advanced manufacturing, which seeks to enable industries to navigate its way through digitalization with the use of cyber physical systems in the production network and service orientation in traditional industries. According to this research, 90% of business leaders in the UK and US are expecting IT and digital technologies to make increasing strategic contribution to their overall business in the coming decade.
Now I'm going to talk a bit about digital disruption and the strategies for it. George Lopez and Gardner stated that by the year 2020, more than 7 billion people and more George Lopez and Gartner stated that by the year 2020, more than 7 billion people and businesses and at least 30 billion devices will be connected to the internet. This whole new world of digitization makes the previous one obsolete while creating massive opportunities. Digital disruption is growing globally. The digital reality is actually shaking up some of the beliefs and compelling us to move towards more knowledgeable IT economy. Example of digital disruption nowadays is the subscription economy business models used by companies like Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu. It is said that we are no longer living in VUCA world, but we are living in a world where volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, and digital disruption reign supreme. How we survive or thrive in this new VUCADD world will be determined to a great extent by how we embrace this new paradigm of digital disruption. The degree of VUCA may differ from company to company, from one industry to another, or from one market to another. In the VUCA age, speed matters more than perfection as it leads to increased competition in the market, global supply chains, and digitalization. Digital disruption paves the way for evolution and growth, and companies that utilizes this are dignified to reap the benefits of new opportunities. Given the major potential risk and rewards, several authors have suggested that ability to either instigate digital disruption and induce systematic change or exploit accompanying change in core conditions are crucial for successful firms in the age of digitalization. The key driving forces for digital business are the consumerization of IT and creation of mobile technologies and devices, the convergence and integration of marketing, ICT, etc., and unlimited capacity capacity for innovation. Businesses are going to lose competency if they don't take this digital business seriously.
While the introduction shared so far is the reality of digitally disrupted VUCA, I would like to say that when organizations invest into brain mapping and formulating a strategy, VUCA is a big opportunity that businesses should jump into. Krasenberg in 2019 voices that volatility and complexity can be established and measured quite objectively, whereas uncertainty and ambiguity are more of a perceptual nature and suggests that the latter two are even proposed to be a result of the former two. That is, the more volatile and complex a situation, the more uncertain and ambiguous we perceive it. And optimistic organizations see the VUCA world as an opportunity where the company can gain competitive advantage in the market if their leaders master the accompanying challenges. So, VUCA is an open field of opportunities for strategists who are willing to explore and experiment the survival chances for the future of their company. Warwick Ching in 2013's Volatility Provides Profit Opportunity, and Hemingway and Market in 2013's Uncertainty is Opportunity, and Boston Consulting Group's 2013 Simplifying IT Complexity is a Major Opportunity, and Amerasia Consulting Group's 2013's Ambiguity Equals Opportunity. All of these articles, all these four articles have presented that there are opportunity in each VUCA world. That is, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity each have their own opportunity in its own way. All of these articles stress that the business leaders and the organizations need to capitalize on the opportunities that is found in the VUCA world, because you can explore and find so many opportunities that have yet not been found. And upon brain mapping and strategizing, that will be very successful, and it can even open up a new door that will help other smaller businesses who are upcoming and need a leader to lead them. And there is this need to understand each of these terms have favorable consequences.
I totally agree to what my friend just said about VUCA being an opportunity and how it is an opportunity. And also, one thing we know about VUCA is that we have no control over it. And this has created need for organization to make changes in the existing traditional way of doing business and develop digital oriented strategies to compete in this digitally disruptive world. Thus, in order to grab VUCA as an opportunity, organization need to stay alert all the time. And as it has also been mentioned by Peter Drucker, who is one of the forefathers of modern management, he talks about the need for organization to be aware and be prepared for new trends that require rapid transition. And in a VUCA world, it is not enough to stick with what is already known and how things have always been done, but rather the future, or let's say the present, because the world is already pretty disrupted by digital transformation. It requires businesses to understand how a disruptive environment affects business, and they need to develop new ideas, frameworks, and tools to stay ahead of the competition. Similarly, I would also like to mention some scholars who remark about what is required to grab VUCA as an opportunity. Chau- Chawla and Lenka 2018 state that creativity is one of the aspects that is needed to face VUCA. The reasoning behind it is because VUCA companies are forced to be nimble and handle the rapid and unexpected changes that happen around them. So having creativity in these times are an advantage. Also, professor of strategy at IE Business School, Mark Esposito says, we can't upset VUCA, but we can learn to navigate it. Rather than fearing the unknown, businesses should approach volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity as an opportunity for growth. Also, he mentions one of the most important ways to do that is by changing our mindset rather than being orthodox and stubborn about what we have always been doing.
I would like to talk about the exploring strategies through the strategic management. In the field of management, strategic management involves the formulation and implementation of the major goals and initiative taken by an organization top's manager on the behalf of the owners based on the consideration of the resources and an assessment of an internal and external environment in which the organization operates. Strategic management provides overall direction to an enterprise and involves specifying the organization objectives, developing the policies and plans to achieve those goals, and then allocating resources to implement the plan. Academics and practicing managers have developed numerous models and framework to assist in strategic decision making in the context of complex environment and competitive dynamics. Strategic management is not static in nature. The model often involves a feedback loop to monitor execution and to inform the next round of planning.
I completely agree to what my friend just said, and I'd like to add some more points. The issues of VUCA market are evidently mentioned in the strategic management journals with titles such as Strategic Management, a new managerial concept for an era of rapid change by Frankel Holf. Another one is Defense Planning, The Uncertainty Factor, which was published in 1971 by Moulton, and Planning in a State of Turbulence by Edward and Harris. Back then, technology was not advanced nor quick. In fact, it was in its experimentation phase. All of these journals I just mentioned discuss the realistic scenario where top executives today and even back then are faced with a common dilemma about the increasing rapidity of change in market, product, technology, information handling, managerial practices, stockholder attitudes, and more. The author contrasts the objectives and functions of strategic management with the objectives and functions of operating management, suggesting adapting against ambiguous challenges in the market environment rather than sticking to the traditional method of avoiding change and relying on a repetitive strategy. This is because there is a limit and certain luck to how many times the same strategy will work in a dynamic market. Repetitive strategy may have worked in earlier times, but the digitalization of our current world has created a completely different condition demanding quick and proactive planning and responses against the VUCA world. Now, speaking more about strategies, digital technologies challenge existing business models and continue to exert tremendous pressure on traditional ecosystems by disrupting the linkages that bind people, process, and product. This is evident from data in 2019, uh, with MasterCard growing its value by 30%, PayPal by 25%, American Express by 17%, and while Common Bank of Australia decreased its value by 18%, Wells Fargo by 15%, Citibank by 11%, and HSBC by 2%. These companies whose value decreased could not keep up with the changes of digitalized market. So what we need to understand is a digital transformation will not only build long-term resilience, increasing speed to market, workforce productivity and stability, it will also deliver short-term financial gains. Companies that use digital levers can expect their profit margins to increase on average by 12 to 20%, according to a research done by McKinsey and Group. They will generate as much as 50% of the additional profits in the first year, thereby generating the resources needed to fund the rest of the transformation journey. This characteristic is particularly relevant today. More than 80% of the transformations will be self funded according to a BCG research. And most companies expect that they will have to institute tighter funding policies in the current circumstances.
According to what my friend just said, I want to enter how to deal with digitally disruptive VUCA world. For years, leaders are talking about VUCA, a US military's acronym for Volatile, Uncertainty, Complex, and Ambiguous World We Live in. However, we now have VUCA on steroids, and we try to keep up with the increasing speed of data generated double every 2 years, reflecting a 500-fold growth from 2010 to 2020. To deal with digital transformation, DBROS has found 5 rules for leading digital world. They are communicating leadership signature, be a sense maker, build X teams, replace toxic tendencies with challenges, and build systems to make all this possible. Communicative, communicate your leadership signature. Leaders should communicate about their leadership style with others because when things change, people crave leadership. They seek stability when they fear disorder. Most of us are incomplete leaders who excel at a certain leadership capabilities and struggle with others. The key is to understand and communicate our own unique way of leading given our experience, values, strengths, and personalities. Be a sense maker. In a rapidly changing environment, sense making is more important than ever. As per organizational theorist Carl Wick, sense making refers to the process of creating meaning out of the messy world around us. This activity is triggered when something is in our environment seems to have changed. So, in this digitally challenging world, a leader should be a sense maker in order to lead, build X teams. In a fast changing world where organizations are trying to set their bureaucratic chains, leaders should also build a new kind of teams to speed innovation and execution. These flexible teams don't just collaborate internally, they also link to the knowledge, resources, and innovation partners outside the business environment. Replace toxic tendencies with challenges driven leaders. Toxic leaders are becoming common in this competitive environment. Toxic leaders can achieve results like higher productivity, greater efficiency for short term. But over the period of time, performance deteriorates and employees will lack to learn new things and they lack innovation. So in order to adopt new strategies in this challenging world, managers should replace their toxic tendencies with the challenges, build the system to make all possible. Success leaders in our challenging times will need to construct the organization system thinking about the future. They should be able to think about the future and build the system accordingly where it can handle the possible change. DBROS 2019.
Um, I would like to explore deeper into the context of how strategy came into succession from past experiences and why it is still relevant in this digital VUCA world today. I believe someone had previously, one of the members had previously mentioned Moulton's defense strategy journal article. And here I would like to support that point and say that Moulton's 1971 journal implies a military reference of defense planning, and that can be applied to the uncertainty in the market world, where he states that failure to predict the course of future conflicts are historically even more numerous than failures to predict the weapons which they would use to fight. And defense has to do with the two-sided activity of conflict and confrontation, and that there is built-in minimum 50% failure rate and lack of opportunity for continuous or even frequent comparison of prediction with reality complexes the defense planner's difficulties. And exploring for winning strategies in the VUCA world would mean that one must be prepared to take the risk of predicting the wrong move against the uncertainty factor, and 50-50 chances of such strategies to fail in process is in order to win in the future. And also upon comparing Peter Hinson's New Normal from 2010 to Manuel Castell's Rise of the Network Society from 1996, it reveals the observed effects of digitalization on our world: increased complexity, dynamism, connectedness, and so on, are strikingly similar, with nearly 25 years in between. While it is very likely that the speed of change in many industries is much faster now than it was in 10 or 20 years ago, the difference being that because digital VUCA world is so rapid, the organizations now are willing to take that 50-50 risk of pulling off a new strategy to survive in this competitive market. And when comparing it to the past experiences, this would have been ruled off almost as an immediate failure, or maybe very risky, or even rejection, because experimenting was not much of a big option, and that would be a waste of time, resources, efficiency, productivity, all of which can be easily done today with the help of the developed advanced technology.
Okay. So I remember one of my friend previously mentioned about a framework which contained, guess, 5 set of rules by using which a company can lead the digital world. I would also like to mention two such frameworks with similar purposes. So in the book Mapping a Winning Strategy, two professors, Patrick Renmoller and Mark Bazzi, has introduced a new model which is based on 16 years of work, which was between 2002 and 2017. In their approach, the authors contend that crafting a winning strategy in 2018 is different than that was a decade ago. And as a result, executives need to build in different strategies. Uh, wide, example, um, widening the competitive horizon, and look at more modern interventions, building agility along the way for a potential change of path, and leverage emerging technologies to engage more intensively with teams. Also, the mapping model method for strategy development and execution provides a better method as opposed to the mainstream model to create a execute a winning strategy under the VUCA conditions, state the author. They also state that before leaders can develop a new strategy, they need to thoroughly understand the big issues that substantially and structurally affect the firm's overarching performances. This process allows them to develop their stakeholders' superior insight into the real strategic issues while avoiding the boiling the ocean with exhaustive and irrelevant analysis. And then comes engaging employees and stakeholders within and outside the firm in the process of strategy development and execution process. So basically, a mapping a winning strategy model introduces a new mapping method for creating and executing an effective business strategy, which uses through the use of visual maps to engage colleagues and also the stakeholders through the organization, and ensuring that every stakeholder's voice is heard by avoiding the top down approach. Also, I would like to mention another framework, or let's say model, which is known as integrated alertness model. An integrated alertness model was developed by Marco Mancesti in IMD Business article, which was developed by taking into account the aftermath of 100 change projects observed over a 20-year period. The model focuses on 5 dimensions that typically go wrong during strategic implementation, which is failing to adequately spot and understand alterations in the context in which business operate, failing to clearly define the intent behind the change required, failing to measure the right aspect during the implementation, and failing to draw up a suitable strategy, or failing to put the right team in charge. And according to this model, companies facing disruption should ask 5 questions before reacting to the situation. And the first question is, how bad is the disruption and why? Also, does the disruption threaten to end the company? How much market share does the new entrant endanger? Or what scenarios could become reality? The second question they need to ask is what to change. So there are basically two types of change. One that focuses on repairing the gear, that is the effect of disruption, and the other looks at refining the entire ecosystem, meaning that the company transforms so extensively that it becomes a completely different player. And the third question they need to ask is where to change. Defining the focus of change through carefully chosen methods, these indicators also provide guidance with which things start becoming complex or ambiguous. If a company is facing disruption, if a company facing disruption decides to change the defense approach, then they need to focus on cost optimization, reliability, point to point speed, sales, market share, client satisfaction, and so on. The fourth question they need to ask is how to change, and this question centers around strategy. Often the problem with strategy is that it is more dogmatic than realistic. So in practice, the best strategy is the one that your organization can execute. So when designing a change strategy, it is crucial to face reality and take into account elements such as company's culture, the strength and weakness of organization, and any other current dynamics at play, and also the threat to the businesses. In other words, the strategy needs to incorporate both the external and internal environments. This approach to change is not only this approach to change is not one size fits all. A traditional, essentially it is a local, essentially a local company will not engage in change in the same way as an multinational tech company. So the last question they need to ask is who drives the change? As changes in the organization mostly depend on leadership, and thus right people need to be put in charge. Teams readiness can uh, right people need to be put in charge. And mentioning an article from Harvard's Business Review by IMD Anand and Jean Lewis, they state that often organizations pursue the wrong changes, especially in complex and fast-changing environments, where decisions about what to transform in order to remain competitive can be hasty or misguided. So, in general, companies facing disruption must go with what to change and where to change right.
Um, I would like to add some few points here with examples. Consumer preferences and trends are changing at a rapid pace, and sudden turnover in brands, products, and firms is proof that business leaders cannot take their leadership position for granted anymore. For instance, the Finnish mobile maker Nokia, that used to be market leader in the past decade, is now nowhere in the scene because agile competitors like Apple and Samsung foresaw the upcoming trend of smartphones and suddenly launched their products. With technology, flexibility, and creativity, companies today can revolutionize their entire business model. While agility is a key to coping with volatility, then vision is key to managing volatility. Resources should be aggressively directed towards building slack and creating the volatility. Prahlad, in 2009, he states that in a volatile world, more and more companies will strive to become Velcro organizations in which people and capacity can be rearranged and recombined creatively and quickly without major structural change. The winners won't stop focusing on quality, cost, and efficiency, but they'll be paying a lot more attention to agility too.
Adding up on agility, Plasmore ETL 2010 has found that there should be a leadership agility where The capacity of leader to dynamically sense and respond to the change in business environment with action that are focused, fast and flexible. The research has also found that the leaders should also be able to sense the change and make employees and organization ready for the VUCA world. The leaders should be aware of the changing environment and start preparing for the possible impact of the change which can be uncertain. So the leader should have vision, understanding, clarity, and adaptability in order to get organizational agility. Relatively unstable change information is available and situation is understandable, but change is frequent and sometimes unpredictable. For example, commodity pricing is often quite volatile. Jet fuel's cost, for instance, has been quite volatile in 21st century. Agility is the key to deal with volatility. Resources should be aggressively directed towards building slack and creating the potential for the future flexibility.
So now let's discuss about digital transformation strategies against constantly changing, disruptive, and volatile market by relating it to our current situation. Firstly, to reposition for to reposition for growth in the upcoming recovery, businesses must evaluate which disruptive changes are temporary and which will be permanent, and then transform to thrive in the altered environment of the post pandemic world. To do that, companies should measure outcomes and prioritize their immediate transformation focus while keeping in mind that business which demonstrate a commitment to realizing long-term value for all stakeholders will be best for placed for the success. Secondly, prioritize resiliency and achieve a genuinely lower, more agile cost base, a more flexible workforce, and a lighter, reprioritized portfolio focusing on the key functions while smartly outsourcing others. According to a research done by McKinsey and Company, in financial services, 28% of consumers globally say they will no longer visit physical bank branches, and over half, that is 56%, plan to make greater use of mobile and internet banking after COVID 19. In this context, launching a second and better wave of digitalization would be a good strategy, from automating administrating processes to enhancing the digital customer experience to create the full digital expertise. Another excellent strategy to enhance cybersecurity measures would, according to a study by cloud computing firm IOMART, the first quarter of 2020 saw a 273 increase in data branches comparing to the same time last year. Increases in online banking, e-commerce, and remote working have all resulted in soaring cybercrime. Companies will also have to reconsider the supply chain in terms of risk, social, and environmental impact, balancing efficiency with responsibility and moving from linear supply chains to integrated ecosystems and networks. Consumers are accelerating this drive towards greater transparency, with 90% globally agreeing that guarantee of origin is important criteria in making a purchase decision. Now, talking about something we can all relate to is that also backed up by a recent EY Parthenon survey, 48% of the people globally say that they will increase the amount of time they work from home. So companies will have to reimagine work while ensuring employee connectivity in an increasingly digital, virtual, gig-based context.
I would like to provide an example to a recent point where one of the members had stated that Agility is the key to deal with volatility, and resources should be aggressively directed towards building slack and creating potential for future flexibility. The example I take here is of Southwest Airlines, who strategizes against the volatile commodity pricing, which was also previously mentioned. Here, Brooks 2010 takes Southwest Airlines as an example of strategizing against the volatile nature of commodity market price. And Southwest Airlines correctly forecast the volatility in fuel prices while prices were still low and acted aggressively to maintain its agility. The airlines company embarked on a massive fuel hedging plan that baffles its competitors, predicting the fuel market volatility and leveraging its assets to create future agility. As most of Southwest competitors hedged only 20 to 30% of their fuel purchases, limiting their eventual agility, Southwest hedged a massive 70% of its total needs. The end result was that Southwest ended up paying as much as 50% less for fuel than its competitors and has been arguably been the only consistent profitable airline for most of the 21st century. And this is definitely a proactive thinking that Southwest Airlines was able to pull off by being agile against the volatile nature of the fluctuating market commodity prices. And they had a big margin by hedging almost 70% of fuel purchases compared to their competitors, which is why they only had to pay 50% less, which definitely proves that agility is a good strategy to deal with the volatile nature of the market. And Joey 2017 mentions how global markets was impacted following the UK's Brexit vote, and therefore business landscape that is characterized by extreme volatility means that business leaders have to concentrate on getting there early and staying there for the future. So they need to act early, which can once again be shown in the example from Southwest Airlines, where they acted early by but when the price was still low, they hedged almost 70% of the fuel purchases. So leaders have to do this early so that they can stay in the future and become relevant. In other words, firms have to channelize their energies so that they know the future to compete in the present.
As my friend mentioned previously, I would like to talk about uncertainty. Nathan Binet and James Lemony mentioned in a Harvard Business Review article that uncertainty in VUCA environment can be overcome by investing in information collecting and interpreting and sharing it. This works best in conjunction with the structural changes and such as adding information analysis network that can reduce ongoing uncertainty. Today is digitalization and technology has enabled everyone to receive information from all over the world in real time. And the important part is the flow of information in two-way, which means both the consumer and business can benefit from it. Social network and new web-based communication technologies allows to actively participate and shape discussion we were not even aware of some years ago. Uncertainty exists in spite of having plenty of information. However, it is more silent where there is a lack of information or data regarding happening of certain event. Regardless the amount of information organization has, they can't change the basic nature of the VUCA environment. The solution lies in visionary and transformational leadership, being able to formulate a concrete strategy and adapt changing technological achievement, keeping step and abreast with the environment around us, and above all being sensitive to even a slightest change in the business environment and preparing themselves accordingly.
Um, Binet and Lemoni also suggest that uncertainty can be solved structurally by devoting more resources to boundaries spanning activities moving beyond existing networks, data sources, and analysis process to gather information from new partners and consider it from new perspectives. Information networks are created from many different sources, both inside and outside the firm. Example of the 2001 US terror attack, the principle of uncertainty is illustrated in the aftermath of the event, with the questions of when and where the next attack would occur. Addressing the uncertainty regarding strategies of potential terrorists had led governments around the world to correct and cull through unimaginable amounts of information. Similarly, in the market world, the best course of action may be to grow the company's information collection and data processing resources, reach out to partners, customers, researchers, trade groups, and even perhaps competitors to better understand how the new innovation might or might not change the marketplace. This has been favorably possible in today's high age of digitalization.
To add up to what my friends talk about how uncertainty can be overcome, I would like to give an example of Vodafone, another case of strategizing against uncertainty as presented by Zoe 2017, who discusses Vodafone's strategy to concentrate on strengthening distribution while justifying activity and acquisition on the ground during the economic uncertainty. It was crucial to align products to meet customer needs during a period of reduced spends to retain customer wallet share, which was managed with the uh, help of smaller ticket size SaaS products and more segmented offers. This gave the firm an opportunity to offer a wide range of differentiated range of products and services to its customers. Similarly, when voice-based services were taking off in 2008, Vodafone pumped in a lot of investment in the new technologies like 3G to drive adoption of a new category.
As my friends have already talked about the few possible strategies for volatility and uncertainty, now I'd like to mention few strategies for complexity here. Market complexity can quickly become a complication. Huygens and Landers suggest that restructuring the internal company operation to match the external complexity is the most effective and efficient way to address it. Organizations should be structured to align their own operation and processes to minor environment complexities. Research has constantly shown that organizations that adopt themselves to match environmental change perform at substantively higher levels. For example, a company's growth into so many new markets create a complexity that might best be resolved by moving to a more geographical based organizational structure such that different branches of the company are able to specialize in understanding and exploiting market regulations and characteristics. Mack and Junjun in 2015 suggest that introducing a systematic program management is an essential requirement to tackle VUCA because in context of high complexity, it is suitable to grasp and treat the organization as an organic body rather than a technocratic entity. Thus, the structure has to be trained and developed systematically. They further stated that having a systematic program management organization can foster the ability to deal with paradox or ambivalent decision situation in times of high variety. This should help to deal with this should help to deal with perceived complexity from time to time in a proper procedure. Trudell in 2030 he demonstrates effective systematic management strategy when Ford reduced platform from 27 in 2007 to 14 in 2013 and planned to reach the target of 9 platform by 2017 when they recognized that rather than having high variety, they could decrease cost by offering customization to dedicated model. Hence, the amount of common parts increases and purchasing cost per parts as well as development costs are decreased. In order to manage complexity, Ford are reducing supply bases from 1,260 to 750 and increase the proportion of purchasing complex modules.
Moving on, ambiguity, which is also one of the component of VUCA environment. Ambiguity is the lack of clarity about the meaning of an event. It is further characterized by the fact that causal relationships are completely unclear and the meaning or interpretation of a situation cannot be identified, resolved according to the rule or process consisting of a finite number of steps. Mark Hoyer 2019 took an example from the field of big data analysis. The sheer amount of available data is overwhelming and just increases the risk of misinterpreting data or drawing the wrong conclusion. The same can be said for strategic decisions, which become ever more ambiguous, and there is often more than one possible solution to a problem, and there is no analytical process to decide which option should be chosen. Bennett and Lemony 2014 found experimentation is necessary for reducing ambiguity. Only through intelligent experimentation can film leaders determine what strategies are and are not be beneficial in the situation where the formal rules of business no longer apply. Ambiguity can come in several forms in the workplace. The issue arises from lack of direction and clearly defined goal. The problem can result from the business itself or from specific managers who fail implementation of the direction and roles associated with their jobs.
While we're on the topic of ambiguity, I would like to talk about Joy's introduction to ambiguity in 2017, where ambiguity means that the business landscape presents issues and dilemmas that cannot be narrowed to simple yes or no or, type of solutions and black and white approach to problem solving. This means that leaders would have to resort to unconventional ways of solving problems, issues, and managing situations. And ambiguity also manifests in association with other features like uncertainty and complexity. And each of these features feed into each other, creating a concussion that is tough to handle for many firms. My friend just now, he just mentioned that experimentation as a necessity to reduce the ambiguity, and I absolutely agree to it. Only through intelligent experimentation can leaders determine what strategies are and are not beneficial in situations where the former rules of business no longer apply. An example of this ambiguous confusion can be witnessed in today's digital world, where traditional print publishers are challenged by high technology revolution, and technology allows content providers to entirely bypass traditional publishers by offering different target markets with information they need. And this pushed traditional publishers to respond with experimentation and the willingness to risk, because technology is overtaking their market, and what was previously theirs can be now easily done at home, and readers can find to read all these articles just in their computers, and this is making the traditional publishers lose their market, and they're losing money. So what they did, a winning strategy, so for a winning strategy does not have to be any groundbreaking innovation, but rather the willingness and ability to adapt to the situation. In this case, the traditional publishers have created bundle contracts for authors with both traditional publishing and ebooks, offered bonus content to customers who purchase ebooks through their own digital marketplace, embedded exclusive videos within their ebooks, and even offered book chapters or whole books for free for a limited time in order to entice new readers. This is a perfect strategy of how traditional and digital market fusion together to find a middle ground in an ambiguous world, where the traditional publishers are able to quickly adapt to the ambiguous nature of the world, and the publishers were able to experiment and find a way to tackle the complex situation that advanced technology had brought into the publishing industry and overtaken the market. And thriving in a world of uncertainty and complexity means being adaptive and having the clarity of vision to discern between a true paradigm shift and market noise. And in order to avoid uncertainty in a VUCA environment, having a clear understanding of the situation is very important. And therefore, companies need to keep looking at the environment to spot changes early, which is known as environmental scanning. And this is one of the best strategies practiced by successful companies in uncertain environments, which enables companies to look out for disruptive changes early and adapt quickly before others.
Isha, you are muted.
Thank you. Okay. I totally agree to what my friend just said about having a clear understanding of situation is very important, because I would like to give example of how Tesla disrupted the environment of truck industry. In 2017, Tesla announced their truck Semi, which was promised to be delivered by 2019. And it was very sudden, and truck manufacturers had a new competitor in the market all of a sudden, and they had very limited time to respond to that, which was around only 24 months, which is very less for their type of industry. So disruption, which means that disruption nowadays do not leave a lot of time for reaction. So it can be more damaging if it can be even more damaging if a company wastes energy uh, working on the wrong chances, wrong chances. Therefore, connecting it to the Tesla example, if truck manufacturers stay ahead and already have knowledge about what's coming in the market, they won't be much affected, or they will at least have an effective strategy to deal with the disruption that Tesla's truck Semi has created in the market. And lastly, remaining vigilant about determining the morale of the core transformation team transformation team allows you to anticipate serious issues beforehand, and keeping an eye on how your change is progressing against your chosen measures allows you to assess the adequacy of your strategy. That's why organizations need to keep timely record of their progress and keep analyzing if the chosen strategy is good enough. And besides that, a strategy doesn't only have to be made or crafted properly, it also has to be implemented well, because an implementation plan that keeps missing its milestone is surely the symptom of another problem in the system.
Here, I would like to add some more points on the VUCA strategy. Sometimes winning in the digital vortex is not just about algorithms, architectures, or innovative business models. It sometimes requires organizational change and workforce transformation as well. One of the key ingredients to success in VUCA environment is also having a clear goal and purpose, as it helps in creating a favorable culture that represents the organization to tackle the situation. So companies should start creating corporate structures and culture that embraces VUCA. Responsible leaders are required to sustain in today's VUCA world, because with their servant leadership approach, they put the interest of subordinate first, which creates creates an empowering experience, and research shows that empowerment leads to creativity at work, which is one of the important criteria for success. For leadership and strategies, VUCA actually means vision, understanding, clarity, and adaptability. When there is more volatility, leaders need to be extra vigilant and manage the operational issues in addition to providing vision. Although strategic leadership is their primary responsibilities, they also need to add value through tactical leadership by going into operational issues in these situations. Since technology creates VUCA often, many believe that it is better technology that can win over crisis in business. However, this is not true. Instead, many challenges are sometimes overcome through exemplary leadership, agility, better business model, and a great culture as well.
Huygens and Hander 2009 research has constantly shown that organizations that adapt themselves to match environmental change performs at basically higher level, whereas frames that maintain power structures and processes in the face of changing business environment are less effective. Organizations should be structured to align with and take advantage of environmental complexity rather than struggle against it. In the most obvious example, as a small informal organization grow, it is expected that the formal department will appear to address what has become too much for a single person to handle. A smaller operation dealing with a smaller group of suppliers, a smaller customer base, and a fewer regulations works best within a relatively simple organizational structure, but the structure becomes outdated as the organization grow constantly. The organization operating environment becomes more complex. Finance, operation, marketing, and human resource functions are established so that each part of the organization addresses something in which it has expertise. As the organization grow larger, complexity will increase and department may divide further. The human resource department may hire specialists in the benefit and pensions administration and EEO compliance causes of this internal restructuring should not be limited to change within the organization. Changes in increasingly complex environment, example, changes outside the organization also indicate a need for internal changes.
Many organizations focus putting together a tick box of technology projects in response to changes that have already come and gone. There is an important distinction between responsiveness and adaptiveness. Resilient organizations don't just respond, they don't deal with change as a game of catch up to market shifts. They adapt. They bend without breaking, taking innovative approaches to deliver that customer value vision. The current crisis is showing how some organizations that embarked on transformation projects with a clear aim to deliver customer value are already seeing the fruitful results of their labor. Take the example of IKEA China. In January 2020, they launched their first mobile app. When the crisis hit less than a month later, the relatively new website and their new brand app became crucial as their physical stores were shut. They stayed ahead of the curve by proactively looking into new ways of delivering consumer value, and it worked in their favor when the crisis shook the high street.
Talking about the organization adaptation strategy and introducing agile. Mark and Khalid 2015 have talked about today's VUCA's world. That is digitally powered with fast continuous technological development, increasing product and process complexities, shorter product lifestyle, globalization, and high interrelatedness of global economy. They demand there is more need for organizational self-regulation and context-related handling of discontinuous to deal with the increasing speed and dynamics, which allows continuous adaptation and renewal of processes and structure within the organization. Scientific research provided by Kompala and Copia 2015 provides evidence that comparatively organizations following traditional businesses strategies differentiate qualitative and quantitative objectives. Qualitative being quality, efficiency, growth, and sustainability, and quantitatively being sales growth, ROI, and operating margin, while in other hand, highly innovative online-based enterprises such as Google, Facebook, or Amazon pursue different approaches for strategy formulation and adaptation by applying agile methods. They target to increase flexibility within their strategies as well as to improve long-term business performance. But the application efficiency of agile principles and methods could be dependent on various aspects. Gimpel, Henner, and Richard 2018 stated, digitalization disrupts established business rules. First and foremost, organizations should inspect existing business models because they are being attacked by digital challengers and prone to become obsolete in digital economy. One can find various companies like Netflix, the world's largest movie house that owns no cinemas, and Apple and Google, the world's largest software vendors that develops only a very small fraction of the apps available on their operating system. So the manager should be clear about adapting the required strategy while digitally transformation as it can help the fast growth of the organization. Susan Partswal and Cardoso 2019 found as a result of various influences such as globalization, digitalization, or industry coverage, companies are facing increased level of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity in their corporate environment. To maintain competitive advantage in this environment, companies, especially in manufacturing sectors, are focused to build up new competence aside their core business to evade commodification. Strategically, managing the company's competence and technology portfolio to build sustainable competitiveness in a long-term technology strategy is heavily adapted in VUCA environment. Current technology strategic concepts are strongly linked with the technology planning, allowing volatility on planning level to result in strategy changes. As strategic positioning remains a crucial factor for companies' sustainable success. An adjusted concept for technology strategy is requiring enabling companies to consistently manage their long-term competence and technology changing environment. Therefore, manager needs to discuss the status quo of technology strategy developed and systematically derived the deficits that arise from the volatile corporate environment. Based on the identified deficits, our attempt is to be taken to develop requirements for VUCA realigned technology strategy development. Adapting technology strategy development to these requirements shall help companies to ensure a consistent long-term corporate development.
Okay. Trade wars between the US and China, the US election, US terror attack of 2001, the economic meltdown of 2008, the Brexit fiasco, or even the current COVID pandemic can all be termed as VUCA events as they were all unpredictable. And also the slow growth, potential recession, and climate changes and weather events that possibly destroy communities and cripple supply chains. And the list of such events or the list of such events goes on. So to help overcome these challenges associated with VUCA, organization need a digital sub organization need to maintain a digital supply chain, build a visibility, sustainability, and a better customer experiences. Digital supply chains management is really just supply chain management with added layer of digital technologies. These technologies include predictive predictive analytics of predictive analytics to optimize inventory allocation and forecast demand, automated replacement of solution, robotics to speed of assembly or picking, IoT sensors to gather real-time feedback from manufacturing equipment and vehicles. However, for a digital product ecosystem, the digital supply chain is the chain of technology companies involved in delivering of delivery products, which was originally referred as the supply chain of digital products. But now the definition has expanded to include the supply chains that help deliver any digital product, such as website or a software platform. So taking an example of e-commerce website, a digital supply chain includes the website developers, its administrators, the cloud services company that hosts the website data, the CMS providers, and the devices that consumer use to access the website. Thus, in digital supply chain, where visibility means connectedness, in order to develop a digital supply chain, organizations need to ask questions like uh, how many companies are connected to their supply chain partners, how many of their partners do they actually collaborate with the strategic planning level. And many companies, however, are only a fraction of way there, and more work lies ahead to connect supplier, logistic providers, assets, and other aspects of the end-to-end supply chain. And besides, navigating the digital supply chain can be made easy by creating a map of digital supply chain to identify single points of failure among third, fourth, or fifth party providers, which can help IT, cyber security, risk, and product teams avoid business disruption and data breaches. Also, the good news is that technology exists to get the job done. Technology such as IoT, predictive analytics, machine learning, and cloud-based supply chain solutions have solutions that drive business agility, which needs to be properly utilized.
I would like to take this debate seminar to its conclusive phase by saying that recognizing and then addressing the myriad factors that can threaten organizational performance is not easy in the VUCA world. In the work of Manwani H in 2013, it is mentioned that winning in a VUCA world requires an ability to simultaneously manage both the short-term and the long-term goals of a business, which assumes that success is not final and failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that uncertain is the courage to continue that counts. And Johansson in 2013 states vision gets rewarded disproportionately against volatility. Uncertainty will yield to understanding, whether it's marketplace scientific competition or consumer understanding. Clarity gets rewarded despite its failure because the world cannot live in confusion, and that even the simplest solution to a complex situation becomes really attractive, and ambiguity yields to agility or adaptability.
Um, Adding more to my friend's point just now, I would further like to conclude by saying that until leaders become able to identify the unique challenges presented by VUCA, they will not be positioned to seize the opportunities promised by the above-mentioned optimists. This is because VUCA all require their own separate and unique responses. Each of the four is a distinct phenomenon with equally distinct appropriate responses that require different frequent and possibly difficult to relocate investments, reinvestments. Brennett and Lemon, they propose that developing the discipline to carefully diagnose and label a situation for what it is, however, offers the self. Leaders need to work to develop this discipline, and organizational performance cannot be preserved if its finite resources are misappropriated to address a phantom threat, especially when the digital world is ever changing within seconds. And if people want to know more about these VUCA world, then the concept is explained very well by Alvin Toffler in his book Future Shock, where he tells us about the rising rate of change in the world around us and how it disturbs our inner equilibrium, thus changing the way in which we experience life. By looking at his book, companies can learn more about strategies about how to cope in this digital disruptive VUCA world. Thank you.
As my friend mentioned previously, I would like to add some more point to conclude that disruption is happening everywhere with the effect on Uber on the taxi industry and the impact on Airbnb had on the hotel industry. Understanding the uncertain challenges and having a strategy to reduce the impact of this situation can reduce adverse effect on your own product sale. Business leader of tomorrow can use current affair like Brexit or Trump as a president as a learning opportunity and came out the other and better equipped to move volatile at uncertain time. Joy 2017 suggests while reflecting complexity dimension of a VUCA framework, business leader have to adopt a un, non-linear approach to the problem solving and must think out of the box. Thank you.
Adding more on conclusion, enabled by technology and driven by dynamic customer need, this increases volatility is real for many organizations. Furthermore, due to greater variety in supply and demand, increased online connectedness between people and between organizations, and increased globalization, the complexity of doing business has most definitely increased too, like a double-edged sword. The same digital and technological enhancement have allowed companies and industries to become much more capable of dealing with increased volatility, complexity, computing power, and speed. The omnipresence of information and the development of complex algorithm, artificial intelligence, and digital connectedness of world enables us to make dramatically more complex analysis and respond dramatically faster than a decade ago. To prepare for leading in complex environment, business heads needs to be able to capture patterns in what's happening with the bigger picture, as well as being able to comprehend the detail while being agile enough to adapt to individual market needs.
I would now like to conclude our debate by saying that VUCA will continue to exist, but what leaders today can do to play a vital role and attempt to control the levers is by moving into a hyper awareness zone of informed decision making and fast execution. Winning in the digital vortex is not just about algorithms, architectures, or innovative business models. It requires organizational change and workforce transformation. And successful transformation is enabled by a company's digital business agility, building on the fact that people are an organization's most important asset. Hence, everybody is compelled to think on the forward thinking strategies to adopt to the digital VUCA scenarios. Uh, we've now come to the end of our debate, and I'd like to thank our teacher, Mr. Sunitra Pradhanang, for facilitating us and guiding us through the whole process of learning for this debate. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, everyone. So what I like about the debate was there was participation of all the participants that was present in the student-led seminar, as well as you have done a good analysis. We can see it. Uh, Going with the individual feedback, yes, Dishti, yes, good analysis. You talked about the strategic analysis, strategic management as well. Ganesh, yes, you also have done the good analysis like the 5 rules of digital disruption and leadership. You talked about the importance of agility and furthermore discussed on ambiguity and digital disruption. Isa, yes, very good analysis added on other participants' view. That is very good. Talked about different models, 5 failures of strategic implementation, and molded this to the digital disruption, as well as digital supply chain. There were good topics that you discussed, and Manzila, very good examples and statistics that you have shown. And you talked also about the disruptive changes and transformation. You started the debate of that topic, as well as you talked about how uncertainty can be overcome and other topics as well. Yes, Sudicha, you led it very good. Started the discussion, talked about VUCA, digital disruption, cited the sources very properly, as well as you all talked about a very good started the good topic on strategy to address the complexity. Sunshine, yes, very good analysis, good sources, and that you have taken very good examples. Okay, you talked about the risks of digital world, environmental scanning, and all of you concluded. Okay, so that is very good. So to talk about the overall um, debate, how it had gone. Yes, you started with VUCA and digital transformation, VUCA, and then you go into the VUCA and digital transformation, digital disruption and opportunities. Given very good examples of subscription business, Citibank, PayPal, Southwest Airlines, IKEA, and many other examples to make your point stronger. And you also talk about how to tackle this digital disruption, customer preference, how it's changing, importance of agility, disruption changes and disruptive changes and transformation. You talk about the volatility, uncertainty, and complexity, how to address this VUCA world. So that you discuss also, and how the organization is being more complex. That we have taken said. Okay, so very good topics that we have discussed. Just only something that are the things for improvement. Okay, so yes, we are here to improve. So to improve what some of you are just reading from the screen, please avoid it. Please try to read less from the screen, just take the reference of it, okay, rather than reading from the screen itself. Okay, so as well as you could have more concentrate, your debate should have more contrasted in, I would say, and you can have a contrasting point of the digital disruption, more on the digital commodification and all. Okay, so yes, the debate was good, but it was just to support, but there was not the point of contrasting the views. Okay, talking about the digital transformation, but also talk about the importance of strategic management in digital transformation. Okay, and also focus that the strategy, not technology, drives the digital transformation. Okay, so focus more on strategy and strategy planning process as well. Okay, overall very good discussion, analysis, and very good effort by all of you. I hope you'll keep it up, and have and also, like, we have improved a lot from the last thing that we have discussed, last time we have discussed, which was an access discussion. So thank you, keep it up. So can we end the session for today. On that note,
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.